Good evening and welcome to Nite Line. I'm your host, Danté Thompson. We've got a wonderful program for you tonight. I'm honored to be here on Wednesday nights. You know, usually Monday's my night, but tonight we got a special program. We're going to be learning a lot about the nation of Israel, what's going on over there right now, and what we can do to help. That's what the entire program's about. But first, I got a couple of announcements before I introduce my guests and my music guests tonight. As I was on Monday, we had our last little push for Bulgaria on air. A lot of people might have got the mail outs in their mailbox this week, but I want to encourage you to continue to give. We still have plenty of time before I leave to go to Bulgaria. Betty leaves this Monday, but I don't leave until July 8th. But so far, we've raised money for 440 children to go to summer camp in Bulgaria. So that is wonderful, but we have a goal of 1,000, and y'all have never let us down, so I know we're going to meet our goal of 1,000. So 560 children to go, or $14,000. We have a goal of $25,000. It takes $25 to put one kid through summer camp. So I want to encourage you to continue to give. Like I said, we do not leave till July 8th. So on up till the 6th, the 7th, there's plenty of time to get in your donation to support the Bulgarian summer camp. I also want to thank everybody for coming out to the prayer vigil over the weekend. I know it was a success, or maybe it was last weekend. I think it was last weekend. I don't even know what today's date is, but that leads me into, today's the 10th, so it was last weekend. Thank you, Russell. But anyway, I want to encourage you to come out for a special healing service at the end of this month, June 27th. And this will be, I think, our third healing service we've had here, maybe fourth. And that's June 27th, right here in the studios at 2 o'clock. And it doesn't last but just a couple of hours. You can stay for just a few minutes or as long as you want to. And that's hosted by Gwen and Wade Hall and Bill and Ann Kreitzer. And I've been hearing great reports from that. And so please come out and be a part of that. But tonight, like I said, we are going to be talking about the nation of Israel, what America is doing to help, what we're not doing to help, how we can help as individuals, and the like. So it's going to be good. We got Dorothy Spaulding here, who's the president of Watchmen Broadcasting, WBPI in Augusta, Georgia. She's been here many times. And also Earl Cox from Israel Always and Jerusalem Global Radio. And Earl is one of the foremost experts on the nation of Israel today. Also, we have the music by the Swansons and B.J. Harris. And B.J. in the second hour is going to be blowing the shofar for us, so it's going to be great. But right now, the Swansons are standing by to do Satisfied and Old Rugged Cross.
Well, you ask me if I'm happy, if I have sweet peace within, if I'm worried about tomorrow when I reach my journey's end. Well, I'm satisfied with my Jesus, 'cause when he knocks, I let him in, and he goes with me through the valleys, for I know he is my friend. Satisfied, 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 satisfied. No troubles can ever get me down. When my eyes shall close in death, with my Jesus I'll be at rest, and you'll know I'm satisfied. When my friends, they all forsake me, when they turn me from their door, if they sow no seeds of kindness, make the thorns in my path grow, well, it won't matter over yonder when I reach the other side, 'cause I'm gonna sit down, sit down, sit down with my Jesus, then you'll know I'm satisfied, 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 satisfied. No troubles can ever get me down. When my eyes shall close in death, with my Jesus I'll be That's why I'm satisfied. Oh, yeah.
On a hill far away stood an old rugged cross, the emblem of suffering and shame. How I love that old cross, where the dearest and best for a world of lost sinners were slain. So I cherish the old rugged cross till my trophies at last I lay down. I will cling to the old rugged cross. I'll exchange it someday for a crown. Oh, that old rugged cross, so despised by the world, holds a wondrous attraction for me. For the dear Lamb of God left his glories above to pardon and sanctify me. So I cherish the old rugged cross till my trophies at last I lay down. I will cling to the old rugged cross. I'll exchange it someday for a crown. To the old rugged cross I will ever be true. Its shame and reproach gladly bear, till he calls me someday to my home far away, where his glories forever I'll share. So I'll cherish the old rugged cross till my trophies at last I lay down. I will cling to the old rugged cross. I'll exchange it someday for a crown. I'll exchange it someday for a crown.
All righty, thank you so much, the Swansons, and they're going to be here the entire first hour. And then in the second hour, we got B.J. Harris, and he's going to be blowing the shofar and also playing a guitar. And man, he's good. I want to see him do both at once. I don't think he can do it, though. But BJ's going to be doing a wonderful job on the shofar and guitar as well. But joining us now is Dorothy Spaulding, president of Watchmen Broadcasting in Augusta. Thank you so much for being here. No stranger to Channel 16. And then Mr. Earl Cox, thank you so much for being here, sir. And now you've been here before. You were here with my father many years ago, weren't you?
That's correct. That's right. Before you were born, by the way.
I was born in '85, so that's probably.
So I'm telling my age right now, right?
Well, thank you for coming back. Now, was that the last time you were here?
That was the last time I was here, and I spend the road most of the time on the road somewhere else. But no, I enjoyed when I was here with your father and your mother, matter of fact.
Well, thank you
I
so
can
much.
vividly remember both of them. They were very fine people for our Lord.
Well, Dorothy has been talking about you for last several years and telling me how I needed to get you in Greenville, and so tonight's the big night. This is the
I'm delighted to be here, to be quite frank with you. Dorothy has had me on the road for the last 4 days, it seems like, on television stations.
You've had a tour, kind of, and it's not over yet, is it?
No, by far it's not over. I get to spend 2 nights home before I head for Israel again.
Wow.
But in the meantime, I'm enjoying going around talking at stations and just enjoying the people that I meet. So it's really a thrill.
Excellent. Well, now, I guess it was a month ago, almost to the day, y'all were in Washington. And I couldn't join because I was in prayer telethon at the time.
Right.
And but tell us about the going to the embassy, Dorothy.
Well, every year we have support of Israel, and certain people are invited to go to the embassy. And so I wanted you to come. You couldn't come, but we got Greg to come, Greg West to come, and that was wonderful. And it's where people show their real support. We do a lot of contacts there. We're friends because of this man with the ambassador, and so it's a good time to see him. And we went to the ambassador's home. This is what really made me happy this year. We went to the ambassador's home, Russell, and you and your wife and I, and we had Shabbat dinner in his home. And while we were there, I was just sharing with him my heart, and my heart is to bring American kids to the Birthright in Israel, Birthright tours. When the kids from Israel go on a Birthright tour, they really learn the history of Israel. But can you imagine U.S. kids, the Christian kids, mingling with them?
Right.
And what it could do? Well, he took that and he ran with it, and now we have college kids going on Birthright tours.
Excellent.
Christian college kids.
Wonderful.
Isn't that great?
That is
And
wonderful.
so I was really excited about that. So I always get excited when we go to Washington. But Earl, I do want to say this. He was named the only Christian ever named as ambassador of goodwill to the world, along with Rabbi Riskin. And they travel all around for Israel, the only Christian.
Wow, that's quite an accomplishment.
It's a little different, I have to admit.
But they're our brothers, who we got to
absolutely.
pray for them, but they're our brothers.
Well, you also understand this man served 5 presidents. And
That also tells you a whole lot.
Well, Earl, tell us a little bit about how you got involved with the nation of Israel.
Well, actually, it's a very strange story. You know the Damascus Road story with Paul? Well, you know, sort of something like that happened to me. I was on the way to become an ambassador for the United States to South America. And I'm an avid runner, and I've been running most all of my life. And I was out running one morning at my beach home, and this was just during the time when they were getting ready to put my name before the United States Senate for approval. And as I was running that morning, something happened to me that completely shocked me. I literally heard that I was to stand with the state of Israel. And of course, I didn't even know where Israel was on the map at that time, to be quite frank with you, Danté. And my whole life changed in a moment. I went home and told my wife, and she said, "I don't believe this." She said, in fact, she said, "I think maybe we need to go and see a psychiatrist. Something's happened to you." Because I've always been a very serious person. Never had time to be have a lot of fun and gregarious. And when I was sort of happy, and she saw me getting up every morning at 3 o'clock, and I was praying to spend time with the Lord. So she finally started believing it, and that's how it all happened. It's just a long story, but again, I had no idea at my age I'd be an ambassador from the state of Israel rather than from the United States of America.
Well, now, did you accept your nomination for ambassador to South Africa?
No, I pulled out. It was a sort of a surprise. I was not interested anymore. I just informed them that I was not interested in moving forward with it. And I just finished wrapping up running, I was managing Elizabeth Doe's campaign for president. And I just pulled out. And so I was thinking it would be a pretty good way to end my government service. An ambassador lives pretty good.
Right.
And especially in South America. And I'd gone and already taken some classes in Spanish to learn how to communicate with people. But in the end, it just turned out that the Lord did not want me to be an ambassador for the President of the United States, but instead for the state of Israel.
For the state of Israel,
Yeah.
wow. Now, what year would that have been?
That would have been 19, well, I've been out, this is going on right at my 17th year.
Wow.
So what does that take us back? Gosh, in
98?
yeah. About, but 2000, it was 2002, I think it was,
Okay.
or 2003.
Okay.
And it's been a good walk with the Lord.
Excellent.
Hasn't been easy.
Excellent.
We've seen a number of wars. We've seen a number of things happen in Israel that we're not very much delighted in.
Right. Well, tell us about, when we think of Israel, a lot of people, and a lot of people my age, and a lot of our viewers that's older than me, they think Israel's been around for just thousands of years, since the time of Christ and everything. But the nation of Israel, as we know it, has only been around since, what, 1948?
1948, the United Nations declared Israel a state for the first time. But Israel has been here 3,800 years when God made the promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and his descendants. So there's always been an Israel per se, but it's never been an Israel recognized. And what's the exciting part, especially for Christians nowadays, Dante, is that the Bible tells us when the fig tree begins to blossom, we're living possibly in the end of times, according to what Jesus said. And we've seen all of these things happen. In 1948, Israel did indeed become a nation. And he said, when that happens, no other nation will ever take them. Well, in 1967, there was a 6-day war when all of the nations around Israel, Saudi Arabia, Transjordan, Egypt, Lebanon, all of them, they came at Israel all at one time. Now, Israel, you've got to remember, is only the size of one of our smaller states, New Jersey.
Right.
8 miles across.
Right.
8 miles across. You can almost run it across.
Right. I heard them say that they could take a jet across, not north and south, but east to west. It takes 3 minutes to fly over from east to west.
And that's how small it is. It sits there right in the middle of all of these Arab countries.
Wow.
You can hardly find it on the map, to be quite frank with you. But Dante, in 6 days, Israel had them all running back to their borders, crying out to the United Nations to stop Israel from pursuing them.
Wow.
Can you imagine? It's a wild dream. But there is no military strategist that's alive or has passed on can explain how Israel won that war. But you go back to Scripture, and it says no nation will ever come against them again and win.
Wow.
And everybody that's come against Israel, and many wars since 1948, and I've been in 3 of those wars with Israel, they've never been able to get Israel to succumb.
Wow. Well, now, before 48, I guess there was Jewish people living in Israel. Now, naturally, that was just a couple of years after, the fall of Hitler, and he killed a lot of European Jews and this, that, and the other. But tell us about between kind of where Christ died and 248. What was going on in the land of Israel?
Well, it was really a swamp land. And this was thought of by Mark Twain when he visited Israel. He said, this is a swamp land. He said, nobody wants this land.
It was a swamp?
It was pretty much a swamp. There were no trees. There was nothing there.
Okay.
There was absolutely nothing there. And when Israel moved onto that property, they started planting trees. And of course, part of that land was given to the Palestinians as well during that mandate. But the Palestinians decided they didn't want it. They left. Now they're coming back that Israel has developed all this land. And it has good, beautiful crops coming up and trees growing, and it's very productive and fruitful. Now they want that land back that they walked away from. And Israel says, no, you're not going to get it back. You walked away from it. You didn't want it. Now we want. Now, in addition to that, Israel, in 1967, she gained land during that war that she had with all of those Arab nations, and that is the land she wants to keep. And that includes the Kotel, or the Wailing Wall, as you might know it. So they now have that land. It was taken from Jordan during that war. Jordan has not asked for that land back, but the Palestinians who decided they didn't want it, they now want it. Then if Israel were to give that, she would lose her defensible borders. And it's just like saying to the United States, let Mexico come in right up to your borderline, and I want you to give more land. We have absolutely no border to protect. So you take a defensible border away from a country, they can't protect themselves. So
Right.
Israel said, no, we're not going to do that. But then you have on the side over here, you have the Palestinians that is comprised, in this case, of Fatah and of Hamas. And if they get...
Oh, it was the first one. Say Hamas, I've heard of it. What was the first one?
That was, Hamas now lives at the land which Israel gave
up.
which is the Gaza. It was a
Okay.
beautiful place.
Uh-huh.
I mean, they had beautiful crops and greenhouses. They had beautiful synagogues. But the moment Israel disengaged, moved her people out, and let the Palestinians go in there, they promised peace. Immediately they went in there and tore down all the greenhouses. They desecrated all of the synagogues. And in the place of those greenhouses, they put rocket launching pads. And they started digging tunnels. And over the years, those tunnels have been dug all the way into parts of Israel, into Sderot and Ashkelon. And that's the problem right now. That was the problem during this last Gaza war. They had these tunnels that were going all underground, coming up in Israel's territory, Israel's real estate. Most of those tunnels have been taken out by now. But again, it just shows you the strength of Israel, that while they were doing all of that, Israel still comes in just a matter of days, stops them in their tracks.
It's only the favor of God, isn't it?
It has to be. You know, I've tried to look at this from a political standpoint. And, you know, I know politics plays a lot in these things right here. But, you know, it breaks down to promises that God made to Abraham, Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea, Jeremiah, all of that. And these people, as you know, lived away in different times. And they wrote about the same things, about what's going to happen in the end of time. And neither of us would prognosticate when the end of the world is coming, because Jesus said, you don't do that. I don't do it. Only Father in heaven knows the exact time I'm coming. But you know, he did say there's a season. He said, when you see these things happen, and he gave 7 things, but he said when Israel becomes a nation is the biggest thing. When you see that happening, know that we're living, or that you're living, in the end of times.
Yeah.
And that's where we are today.
Yeah. Excellent, man. That's exciting. You know, I've been to Israel once. It's gorgeous. I want to go back soon.
Well, you're going to go soon.
I want to so bad. You know, we've tried a tour group here, but this is different though. When we go back, it's for media exposure and stuff like that. So it'll be good. But it's so fascinating because, like, you know, the areas that you want to go to, kind of like Calvary, you can't go up on Calvary where there's a Muslim cemetery there. You know, now we're the Wailing Wall, the Western Wall. You know, the Dome of the Rock sits right where Solomon's Temple used to sit. I mean,
exactly.
What's going to go on in the future? I mean, we know the Solomon's Temple is going to be rebuilt, and what's going to happen to the Dome of the Rock? What's going to happen to these things? Is it going to be war again over there? I mean, what do you think?
Well, you know, there's a number of trains of thought on that right there. But I would suggest and think that, you know, we are told that once the resurrection takes place, or once God's children are taken up to heaven, then the New Jerusalem, there will be a 1,000-year rule with Christ, first of all, and there'll be 1,000 years on the other side. But eventually what's going to happen, there's going to be a New Jerusalem coming down from heaven, and that's where Jesus will live. That's where we will live with him, in this New Jerusalem that's coming down.
Earl, there's some belief too that the Muslims, when the Antichrist takes place, he's going to work it out, a deal with the Muslims, where they will have, and I saw pictures in Israel, where they have the temple and the Dome of the Rock side by side.
Wow.
And the Christians will worship in the outer gates, the Muslims over here, and the Dome of the Rock, the temple here. And then he will desecrate the temple 3.5 years into it. They already have all the parts to the temple. They're ready to go to build it.
Wow.
It's ready. And it's going to be sooner than people think.
Well, it keeps them from doing that right now, just because of the political climate there.
No. What keeps them from building the
temple now?
They are arguing back and forth.
There's a conflict back and forth, and that's all part of the process. You know, Islam has a different belief than we have, totally different belief. They worship Allah, and you know, Allah is a moon god. We worship a God that created the heavens and earth and all things therein. And so we follow a teaching where God says, love one another. I'm going to give you a choice. You can either choose me or you don't have to choose me. He gives us, but in Islam, you are either to become a follower of Islam or you're considered an infidel. And they've already classified the Jews as infidels, and all infidels are to die. And now the Christian community is coming right behind it. They're saying all Christians need to die as well. It's just their way of belief. If you look in the Quran, there's not one place in the Quran, Dante, that has the word peace.
Wow.
But you look through our Bible, you know, we were taught to love one another as Jesus loved us. But that's not what it's like in Islam. Islam is a vicious, cruel, terrible, religious-based ideology.
Yeah.
And for those of us who follow Christ, we want to have peace. We want to see these people. We don't hate all Muslims.
Right.
But they are the radical Muslims that will take away your freedoms and my freedom. And when we have a country that sits right in the middle of all of this type of philosophy, then they're our allies. We need to protect them as well. But Israel is on the front lines for America as well.
Right.
It sits right there. And up to the north of Israel, there's Russia and there's China. So, and look at Iran. That's Babylon. It's right over top of it. So we're told that in the end times that it's going to come from the north. If it comes from the north, it's from Russia and from China. And they are tremendous, powerful nations right now. And there's a threat to the United States from them. And so that's why Bibi Netanyahu, the prime minister of the state of Israel, is so concerned what's going to happen in Iran with this nuclear proliferation they have. You've got the 5+1 countries that have been dealing with them, trying to say, look, we want you to stop this nuclear proliferation. And Iran is not going to do it. And when Bibi Netanyahu came to the States in defiance of the President of the United States at an invitation of Congress,
I saw
he
that
was severely criticized, as you very well know. But you know, isn't it ironic now that the Congress has come through and the President cannot lift those sanctions without Congress's approval? Secondly, those Arab nations like Saudi Arabia and Egypt, they are now saying what Bibi Netanyahu did was the beautiful and wonderful thing, because they don't want to see Iran get a nuclear weapon as well.
Right.
They are just as afraid of their own brothers and sisters. So Bibi coming here was criticized, but yet now he's a hero.
Right.
And
Let me tell you something else. Do you know when it was? It was on Purim.
Yes.
When big things like that happen, it happens on a feast day. And Purim was the day that Esther went before the king uninvited. And see, Obama didn't invite him. He went before the Congress uninvited. I mean, not by him, but by the Congress. And I won't say who Haman is, but anyways, it follows pattern.
he's a very cruel man that tried to destroy the Jewish people.
Yes.
And he conspired to do that. But Esther, even at that time, you know, she took a big chance when her uncle asked her to go in. You know that.
Yeah,
Dorothy.
she took her
You couldn't go
life
in and
in her
talk to a
hand.
king. You had to go in
Right.
and he had to request that you come in to see him. And so she, you know, and if you were to make that request, your head would come off. You just could not go and visit a king without him inviting you first. But she took that chance and she went in there, and consequently, she saved the Jewish race at that time.
And see, that's what he did. He took the chance of coming because he was right in an election. But the people of Israel got so proud of him for standing up and did it.
And he
And
won the
voted him
election.
in.
It took a lot of guts to do what he did. It cost him his. It could have very
Cost him
easily
his
cost him
election.
his political future. And
But it's a pretty good landslide, wasn't it, in the election?
well, actually, it was at the beginning. Right now, they've had a call of confidence one time, and he only has 61 of the 120 seats right now. So it's still a little shaky. I mean, they could come back and have new elections in another week from now.
Really?
If that coalition should fall apart. So it's you know it's going to be difficult days ahead for Bibi Netanyahu right now.
Excellent. Well, we're going to go to a song. We're going to learn more about the nation of Israel when we return. Lisa Swanson's standing by, and she's going to be singing "To My Mansion in the Sky."
This plane I'm riding, they say it's leaving for a place where you'll never die. And the pilot will be my Jesus to my mansion in the sky. Now don't be grieving, 'cause I'm leaving. And don't cry when I say goodbye. There'll be no weeping to where I'm going, to my mansion in the sky. This plane I'm riding will be returning some sweet day, Lord, by and by. So get ready to go with Jesus to my mansion in the sky. Now don't be grieving, 'cause I'm leaving, and don't cry when I say goodbye. There'll be no weeping where I'm going to my mansion in the sky. My journey with Jesus will end my sorrow, heal my afflictions, no more I'll cry. I'll be rejoicing while I'm going to my mansion in the sky. Now don't be grieving, 'cause I'm leaving, and don't cry when I say goodbye. There'll be no weeping where I'm going to my mansion in the sky. Now don't be grieving, 'cause I'm leaving, and don't cry when I say goodbye. There'll be no weeping where I'm going to my mansion in the sky. To my mansion in the sky.
All righty, thank you so much, the Swansons, and they're going to be doing a couple more for us this hour. But we're going to get back into talking with our discussion about Israel, and I want to encourage you to call in if you have any questions, because what I was sharing with Earl prior to the show is, you know, I'm not familiar with a lot of that's going on. You hear what's going on in the news, but you're there multiple times a year. I mean, you spend a lot of time in Israel, a lot of time in D.C., you know, with the different politicians and whatnot. But so I feel like a lot of our viewers might be on the same level that I'm on, you know, kind of know what's going on but don't know what's going on. So we're getting to know a lot about Israel tonight, but we wanted you to call in with your questions if you have any. 244-1616. Of course, we've got prayer partners standing by right now to take your call for prayer requests or praise reports or whatever you need. So go to the phones tonight. But Earl, before we move forward, I want to go back to Islam and the Muslims that's in Israel. When I was in Jerusalem, they told us that Jerusalem was the third most holiest city for Muslims.
Right.
Why is that?
Well, it's because they consider the land of Israel, that Israel occupies now, their land. And we know that the land was given to Isaac, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And it was through Abraham's seed that Israel came into existence, and that land was covenanted to them in an eternal covenant, which goes back to what we were talking earlier about anti-Semitism. People believe that we no longer have that eternal covenant, and that when Jesus came, that covenant was broken. Well, there's nothing in the Bible that tells that. There's nothing in the Quran that tells us, nothing in the Torah that tells us either. So we know that that covenant was never, ever broken. But Israel belongs, the capital of Israel is Jerusalem. But you know, many years ago, many of the countries moved out of Jerusalem because they didn't want to get involved in recognizing Jerusalem as the capital, because that was not the most popular thing to do, including the United States. Our embassy is located in Tel Aviv. And every president, Congress, a number of years ago, voted for that embassy to be taken back to Jerusalem, recognizing Jerusalem as the undivided capital of the state of Israel.
Wow.
But that piece of legislation is on the president's desk every 6 months to be signed. And do you know, for 5 presidents, not one of them has signed every 6 months that comes across that we to recognize Israel as the undivided capital. Jerusalem as the undivided capital of Israel. And yet, just the other day, less than 2 weeks ago, pardon me, President Obama pushed it right aside and moved it again for another 6 months.
Now,
So
where's Netanyahu's office? Is it there in Israel?
It's right there in Jerusalem.
Okay, it is. It's not in Tel Aviv.
Yeah, the Jews consider Jerusalem as their capital.
Okay.
And that's where all the problem is. The Israelis want to be recognized as a state, which they should, because the United Nations came through and recognized them as a state. But the Palestinians say, we will never, ever recognize you as a state. Now, how, Danté, could you ever deal and negotiate with a country or with a people who will not even recognize that you exist? And that's the problem. I mean, if you don't recognize that these are a legitimate country that you're dealing with, you're sitting there, and how do you kind of deal with someone? How do you negotiate with something like that? You can't. It's impossible.
Right. Man. Well, why is it that Jews in particular, I guess, not just Israel, but Jews in a whole, why have they been persecuted for not just during World War II like we think of, and then in recent wars, but why have they been persecuted for thousands of years?
Well, I think the reason is simply because that they are Jews, and they are the people that God Almighty had taken and identified as his people. And as you very well know, there's an evil side to the good side. And evil has always pushed people to go against Jews. It's never been, in 3,800 years, as I was mentioning to you, they've never been popular. They've been, every nation that's ever been part of what they are doing has tried to pull them down. But those nations are no longer here. The Babylonian Empire, the Roman Empire, the Ottomans, the Crusaders, Hitler and his thugs, everyone that's come against the Jews has been taken out. Now, God has punished his people, but you are touching the apple of his eye when you touch those Jews. He's always brought them back, and he said in the end times he'll bring them all back. And we are seeing just tens of thousands are coming in every year back to Jerusalem from all over Europe, from the United States. And many of these people that I talk with are professionals, and I ask them, why did you come back? I don't know. These are doctors and attorneys and people who have attained a station in life are moving back without jobs. They don't know why they're coming back. But it's biblical that they will return to their homeland.
Wow.
And that's what's happening.
Yeah. Well, why did God choose the Jews? Any idea? Does it give any mention in the Bible why he chose the Jews?
No, that's a theological problem. I don't know.
I've never heard. I've just always
First of all,
knew
Abraham
it was his people.
obeyed God. And Abraham was not, there wasn't a Jewish thing. It came through Abraham. And Abraham, and then he said, in you I will have my covenant with Isaac. Not Ishmael, but Isaac. And so it's Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And that's what formed the Jewish people. And from there on, it was Israel. He called it Israel. And my covenant is with Israel. Those who bless you, I will bless. Those who curse you, I will curse. And through you will all the nations of the earth be blessed. But it's, and he said, I will show you a land, which was Canaan, which is, and he gives the borders of the land, which is much bigger than what they have now. And he said, it's an everlasting covenant. So therefore, they don't even have the land. They only have a small portion of what he promised them. And so for people to go in there and try to take it out, or just as recently happened in our country, they said, if you have a passport and you were born in Jerusalem, you cannot put Jerusalem on your passport. Why? Because they deemed it an international city. They can't do that. That city belongs to Israel.
Right. That's so real.
You asked me, I have sat in on thousands of interviews before, on networks, or smaller stations, and I have never had that question asked.
Really?
You put me on the spot. I don't like that, right?
I bring
have
the
people
heat,
traveling with me that have an answer to that right there. They're theologians. I'm not a theologian. You have to remember, I spent all of my life in Washington, D.C., and when I stepped out in support of the state of Israel, I always asked, I said, Father, shouldn't I go to school and become a theologian of some kind? And the morning that I'd asked my wife that, she said, well, why don't you go to the Bible and check it out? I did, and I happened to turn to 2 John, 2nd chapter, and it says, no man will teach you, I will teach you. And I understand now why I did not become a theologian. Because had I become a theologian, I would have had the acceptance of the Israeli government. I've had the opportunity to work with 3 prime ministers based on my past performance. But if I had been a theologian, they wouldn't have done that, because they do not recognize Christians in their government. And when BB named me as a goodwill ambassador, they had to take that in consideration, because they just couldn't have a pastor to come in, or a preacher, or an evangelist.
But by not being a minister, that worked for you.
And it worked perfect. But it's, again, I do travel with theologians, and they're around me all the time.
Well,
but
now next time, or if somebody asks you, you got an answer from Dorothy.
That's not
today.
the answer. I can tell you that now. That's only partially the answer. I want to know
Exactly.
why. Yeah, and it was a very good
That
question.
is the answer. The answer comes from the Bible
Yeah, it
in the
does.
very beginning in
Well,
Genesis.
Refresh the people, a lot of people that think about Abraham and Ishmael and Isaac. Now, Ishmael, he was like 20 years older, correct? I mean, he was
older than he was older than Isaac,
Yeah.
and God told Abraham and Sarah they would have a child,
Mm-hmm.
but they got older and they waited and they said, "Well, you better take my Hagar, my maid, and take her." And when she did, then Sarah got very jealous and hated the child because she saw the attention it got from the dad, from Abraham. But see, Abraham was in another country, and God said to him, "Would you leave this country and come to a country that I will show you?" And then when he delivered the children of Israel from Egypt, he showed them the land of Canaan. And he took them out of Egypt. He showed them all just think about it. You had to walk through a sea where the water went up, the land was dry, and they walked through that sea. 3 days later, they complained and they said, "We should have stayed in Egypt." Well, God does never give complainers what the blessings. You have to trust Him. And so then they had to wander for 40 years, and only Gideon and Joshua got into the promised land. And that's where the promised land, first when they came back into the promised land, they had been in there, and then they left to go into Egypt when the famine came with Joseph, and then they went back.
Where did they first cross into in what we would think of Israel? Because they wandered around, Sinai Peninsula, I guess, for 40 years.
Egypt. They were in Egypt, as you very well know.
Where did they wander into Israel for the first time? Gideon and
They had to come through the Sinai Desert
Right,
in
right.
order to go there because they were coming in from Egypt.
So
Of course, the Red
was the
Sea-
Sinai, was that considered Israel then, or the
No.
Promised Land? Okay.
That was part of the Canaan, yes. That
That's
was
what I'm
indeed
saying.
Part of it.
Okay.
But in any event, it was under the authorization of the Egyptian government
Right.
at that point.
But where in Israel did they actually go cross
Look in
in
your
40
Bible.
years later?
In your Bible, it shows. Oh, they came in through Jericho.
Oh, okay.
And you'll see
Okay.
Jericho when you go to Israel.
Okay.
That's where the
Now, when I
walls came
went, Jericho
down.
was off limits. Is it
Yes.
still off limits now?
Well, tourists can go there.
Okay.
Certain people can't go there.
Certain people
If you're
can't.
dealing with the government, or Israelis can't go there.
Really?
But Jericho, is off limits
Okay.
for those who are in the Jewish community.
Now, this is probably a good question, and you go a lot, Earl. When I went, Jericho was, for tourists, that was in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
It was off limits. We couldn't go to Jericho. I guess that was a Palestinian.
now,
You
right.
can now.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody's wanting to go to Israel, what can and can't they, where can they and can't they go?
Well, actually, they can go pretty much anywhere they want to.
Okay.
But once let's use an example, hypothetical example. If they want to go to Bethlehem, the Jewish people don't go into Bethlehem. You
Okay.
go to the border, and you are transferred right there at the border. You'll get out of your cab or you get out of your bus, and you'll get on an Arab bus, okay, or Arab taxi, and they'll take you into Bethlehem. But you can go pretty much anywhere you want to
Okay.
go. Ramallah probably would be off limits for you if you don't want to go there.
Where's that?
That's Ramallah. That's
Ramallah.
the Palestinian territory where
Okay.
Mahmoud Abbas lives, and that's where Abu Mazan and Arafat lived. It's
Okay.
right there next to Jerusalem.
Wow.
But you can go pretty much anywhere. You can go all the way up to Tiberias, Galilee, up to the Lebanon border, to Metula. And
Even
you go
down
all the
the
way down,
Gaza
go down to
Strip.
Gaza, and you can stand here and look across the way and see Gaza. We spend a good bit of time down in Sderot. And when you come over there, Dante, you will go down there, and you may have to. This is a part that probably is a little more dangerous than any place else, but the rest of Israel is completely okay to go to. People tell me all the time how unsafe it is. You know, look, I would rather walk the streets of Jerusalem at night
would too.
at 12 o'clock than I would walk 6 o'clock in Washington, D.C. by myself,
Right.
or Atlanta, or Chicago, or Los Angeles. It is perfectly safe. But you go down to the south, there's a good possibility that you may have to run for shelter, and which we've done many times.
All right.
We've got a picture of him on video. When the rocket ran off, you've got 15 seconds to get into a shelter, and the force of the rocket pushed him into the shelter,
Wow.
He fell down in the shelter. They have a video of
Wow.
it.
Yeah, we've slid into many buildings many times,
Yeah.
but we won't let that happen to you. I promise. We're going to
I'll
kick you in
bring
a
my
bulletproof
They have
book.
never lost a tourist yet.
Right,
In
right.
all the years, they've never lost a tourist.
Wow. Well, I've always heard the joke, I guess, the guy was going to Israel, but he was scared until he left JFK. Then he got over that fear.
That's exactly right. You know, that's really true too. That's
Yeah.
a fact right there. You arrive in Tel Aviv, in Ben Gurion really, and as you get off the plane,
That's
it's just
awesome.
something special. When you get off and see all that beautiful Judean hills and Samaria, you just fall in love with it. But you can feel the hand of God almost upon you, even more so than you hear in this country. It's something very special.
It really is.
About going to Israel.
And when you see the sights that's in the Bible, you'll never read the Bible the same, because then you can
right.
put the touch, the smell, the taste, the sounds that you could add all that to it. It's not just words on a page at that point. You know, the Mount of Olives comes to life when you read it again. You know, it's like, wow. You know, it's fascinating.
Well,
It is
more so
it's
today than
phenomenal.
when you went, because since you've gone, we've got a train that runs. You don't have to walk down to the hotel. We've got a train that runs right through the city, and all of it's been
wow.
modernized
Oh, it's wonderful.
now. It's just
Wow.
entirely different. In
I
fact,
love
we're working on a train right now that will go from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem.
Oh, that'd be
And
wonderful.
so
Yeah.
you'll be able to get off the airplane and just get right on a train and head right on into Jerusalem.
Yeah.
So it's changed dramatically in the last 10 years.
That's
really
great.
dramatically. You're
That's
going to enjoy it.
Excellent. We're going to go to a song when we come back. We're going to learn more about Israel. Harvey Swanson standing by to sing "Gather at the River," the Jordan River.
Jordan River.
Shall we gather at the river where bright angel feet have trod, with its crystal tide forever flowing by the throne of God? Yes, we'll gather at the river, the beautiful river. Gather with the saints at the river that flows by the throne of God. Soon we'll reach the shining river. Soon our pilgrimage will cease. Soon our happy hearts will quiver with a melody of peace. Yes, we'll gather at the river, the beautiful river. Gather with the saints at the river that flows by the throne of God. Yes, we'll gather at the river, the beautiful river. Gather with the saints at the river that flows by the throne of God. We'll gather with the saints at the river that flows by the throne of God.
All righty. Thank you, Mr. Swanson. Thank you so much for being here. And in the second hour, we got B.J. Harris, yes. And he travels with you, doesn't he, Earl?
Travels a good bit
So-
with me, yeah. He stays my sidekick.
Excellent.
He knows more than I do. So I'm always the guy in the front of the camera, but he's the guy behind me.
There you
and
go.
They don't never get any glory in it. They do all the work, and I'm out here getting on this wonderful camera that you have and talking with you. I do have all the fun time.
We're going to give him some great exposure tonight, and he's going to be playing the, I don't know if you play it, but you
Yeah, he'll
blow
just
it,
blow it.
the
I think
shofar,
blow,
and he's going to strum the guitar tonight.
Not at one
so-
time now.
Not at the same time, though. That would be something to see. So,
Right.
But getting back to
Hey, can I just say
yes, go
something?
ahead, Dorothy.
He Googled, where did Judah come
Don't
from?
you have to
I
tell
mean,
me.
where did Jew come from? It came from
Yehuda.
Yehuda, a Hebrew word named Yehuda, which is the tribe of Judah.
Judah.
Now, you know,
Okay.
there were 10 tribes. They were all given a portion of the land, and it gives the borders where they all were given. Well, Jerusalem was where King David was, and that was the portion of the tribe of Judah.
Okay. And I want to talk about the tribes in the second hour because that's something that I don't understand. I know it's in the Bible. I know of the tribes and what they did, but I don't understand if it's still relevant, or there's still that many tribes, or if some of them phased out. I don't know.
I think they were phased out a long time ago.
Okay,
but
so this is what I don't know. So, you know, when you're here in South Carolina, you just don't give it much thought over there.
Well, they still have the tribe of Levi because your Levites are, your priests are coming from the tribe of Levi.
Okay.
Or your rabbis are coming out of that tribe.
Okay, we're going to find
And
out
the
about
tribe
the
of
tribes
Judah.
in the second hour. But talking about the bombs, let's talk about that for a minute because I know the U.S. has helped the nation of Israel so much with what is it called,
Iron Dome.
Iron Dome, yeah.
And it really works.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. The success rate of them tracking those missiles and.
It is absolutely inconceivable how it works. I've been there so many times, and you get it's called the red alert comes out. When the red alert comes, you've got 20 seconds. And just the instant that rocket takes off from the Gaza, that Iron Dome keys right into it. And you can literally stand there and watch how that Iron Dome goes up and connects with it.
That's
you can
unreal.
see it happen.
So you've seen them connecting there.
Oh, absolutely, many times. But
Many
sometimes,
times. Now, how many missiles is coming from Gaza?
well,
a
they've
day?
sent thousands and thousands.
Thousands.
I mean,
I've seen
really
it.
and truly. It's,
Yeah.
Those people that live in the south,
Yeah.
in Sderot, Ashkelon, Ashkedon, and there's other places, they live like this every day. They don't, even after this last war, they're still continuing to come in
The
there.
other day, they shot some in.
And fortunately, they hadn't had any casualties lately,
Yeah.
but they've fallen in the fields. But in any event, no, they've lived like this for
Hold on.
years and years.
They
now.
haven't had any casualties with the missiles. Is that what you just said?
No, I didn't say that.
Okay.
I said no U.S. tourists.
Oh, U.S. tourists.
Tourists
Okay,
hasn't been taken
okay.
down. But there have been many casualties, there
Yeah.
been many deaths. I've gone to many funerals from people who have fallen down in Sderot and Ashkelon. You know, and they bury their people the next day. They never wait.
Right.
So when a family wakes up in the morning and in the southern part of Israel, probably they've been sleeping together with all their children in a room not much bigger than 8 by 7. All of them are crowded in this little room down. It's a
In the
protective
basement.
room, but sort of like a shelter for them. That's how they live.
Wow.
And they wake up in the morning, they're tired, the children go off to school, they don't know if their mom and dad's going to be there or not. I tell you, Danté, when you hear that alarm go off, no matter where you are, it sends chill bumps up to you. And you may be on the street, and you have to find some place real quick to run to because you don't know where it's going to hit.
Wow.
And you see people just scattering every time that alarm goes off.
You know,
It's,
we saw some up by Lebanon. Remember, we were up there? And when these bombs come, they're full of nails and all kinds of trash. And when they come, they go and dig a deep hole in the ground, but they shoot up, and they can shoot through your house. It comes down, but then they shoot up.
Wow.
And you can see it. It's made big holes in homes.
But where are they getting the missiles from? Or
Well,
are they making them? Or
they make
They're making them now, but of course they've been getting them from Iran. Iran sends many of them, and they're still trying to get them in through Egypt. But Egypt has become a friend now of Israel, and they are stopping them. So they're having a hard time getting these things in there. You might remember the flotillas trying to deliver things into them. Israel is always stopping ships trying to come in and smuggle the munitions and the concrete and the other things that they need in order to construct tunnels or build weapons or what have you. This happens on a daily basis over there.
Wow.
But they're still trying to get it in there, but they're making their own Katyushas and Grad rockets, and they don't have the accuracy that some of the newer rockets that Iran is sending into them. The newer rockets can get as far as Tel Aviv, and they've come in close to Tel Aviv, but that Iron
Southern
Dome has taken them down. But in the past, they've only been able to get into the southern part of Israel. Now they can go and penetrate.
Wow.
Now up in the north, where you have Hezbollah, that's on the Lebanon border, they have over 100,000 rockets that have been confirmed ready to come into Israel, and they all are pretty accurate. So Israel is preparing right now for an attack that could come from Lebanon again, especially if something happens with Iran. So Israel is really fighting a war on the south with, in this case, would be Hamas, and Fatah is part of it, even though they acknowledge they're not. Then up on the north, you have Hezbollah, and then you have Iran. So Israel's going to have to fight 3 wars at one time if she has to go in there and knock out that nuclear facility.
Yeah.
And if those sanctions are lifted, Israel has no
Choice.
alternative other than to do something.
Uh-huh.
And when she does it, everybody will complain, but everybody will be happy.
Uh-huh.
But they have to blame somebody for this right here. But Israel's going to have to do it.
Wow. Well, I know, what is it, about maybe a year, less than a year probably, there was a missile that landed in the parking lot at Ben Gurion Airport. Is that correct?
In fact, frequently when you go, in Ben Gurion, which is halfway between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, they get alerts, not necessarily bombs coming in or rockets coming in, but they get alerts. The last time I was there, not long ago, they shut down the airport. Nobody could go anywhere. We had to go into a safety area at Ben Gurion Airport, which is a brand new airport, by the way. Beautiful, modern airport. But they would not let us out. You had to go there and stay until it was all clear.
Wow.
But you just don't know when these people are going to send these rockets over. And they've got so many of you've got Al-Qaeda, you've got Al-Maqsa's Artist Brigade, you've got Hezbollah, you've got so many of these terrorist organizations and groups that they are dealing with. They can't even get along with themselves. You've got Shia against Sunni and Sunni against Shiite. You know, they're fighting among themselves. And so it's really such a confused project that's going on in Israel that can't be addressed. I mean, nobody has an answer to it.
Excellent. Well, we just got a few seconds left in this hour. When we come back in the second hour, we're going to share some of the lighter side of Israel. You know, something that you can do to help the nation of Israel. Maybe if you want to go visit Israel. I know I'm still not scared to go to Israel, and neither should you. But we'll be back in just a few minutes with the second hour of Nite Line. Don't go anywhere.